Okay, so it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you to, again, the first ever Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies program open house, fully virtual. My name is Professor Jessica Restaino, and I'm the director of the GSWS program. We're going to get started. A couple quick things. First of all, we are really fortunate to have live captioning tonight. So I want to thank Mona, who is our captioner tonight. And if you want to access captions for our program, you can just click on the CC on the bottom of the screen. So go ahead and select captioning if you would like. Thank you, Mona, for doing that for us. And I am going to introduce our amazing panelists to you. I would encourage you to, once we open up our discussion, encourage you to possibly switch your Zoom screen to speaker view so you can be able to follow the conversation as we go. Without further ado, let's meet our panelists. So Austin greets, whose pronouns are he, him, his. Austin currently works as a public affairs manager for Planned Parenthood Action Fund of New Jersey. Austin also serves on the board of the Northeast LGBT Conference and the Coalition on AIDS in Passaic County. And welcome, Austin. We're so glad that you're here with us today.
Thanks, I'm happy to be here too. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad you're here. Thank you. Next up, Carmine Ramirez, she, her, hers. Carmine Ramirez studied GSWS, LGBTQ+ studies, and sociology. Carmine currently works at Hartwick College as a student success coach, where she works with first-year students and provides guidance as they navigate college. Carmine, we're so glad that you're with us tonight. It's so good to see you. And Carmine actually worked as a student assistant in the GSWS program as well, and I had the pleasure of working with Carmine for the very end of her college career at Montclair. So welcome, Carmine.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks for having me.
So glad you're here. Next up, Malachi Robinson, he, him, his. Malachi Robinson is the Student Multicultural Affairs Coordinator at UMass Boston, where he has oversight of the 6 student-led cultural centers and clubs and advises and supports the immigrant student program. I have had the honor of having Malachi in one of my classes. Malachi, this is, I think, your second, and actually Austin's second open house with us as well. So thank you so much for being here. We are so glad that you are with us this evening. Hi, Malachi.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So great to have you here. And then last, but of course not least, Lisa Noesse, she, her, hers. Lisa Noesse is the CEO and founder of Mavo Care, Inc., a startup company that creates vaginal and women's wellness nutraceutical. Lisa, you're going to have to help me with the nutra products and supplements. She is Latinx, has a cat named Khalifa, and loves to lift weights and meditates. She also won the MSU Pitch Contest in 2019 for $50,000. And that was so exciting, and so exciting to kind of see that happen. Lisa, welcome. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great seeing you guys. And it's nutraceutical, by the way.
Nutraceutical. Thank you. Thank you. Nutraceutical. And we're going to hear about it. I can't wait to hear more about nutraceutical products. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Lisa. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a look at, we have 3 set questions for our panelists. I'm going to turn it over to one of our student interns I'm going to get to say hello to in just towards the end of our program as well, but I'm going to turn it over to Nina to share our questions.
Hey everyone, I'm Nina. So some questions we have for our panelists, and it's really up to you in what order you answer these. You could just kind of go with whatever feels right. But the 3 questions are: what made you choose GSWS? How does your GSWS education inform your life and work today? And as GSWS alum, what are your hopes for our future? So you can start with the first one if you'd like, but whoever wants to go first.
I'd go first. So I chose GSWS just because of the human aspect of it. I feel like this is quite honestly, I don't know anyone else in my like social circle that's ever chosen this major or is in this major. And I really wanted to learn more about women, the history of women, and LGBTQ studies. I feel like I've always kind of had like a calling towards women. And I think that this kind of, at the end, I kind of blindly went into this major, if you want me to be honest. But now looking at where I am now, and what happened so fast in like 2019 and in my senior year, like it kind of just like went hand in hand. So maybe the universe chose it for me. I'm not sure.
I also wanted to say that if you, for the audience, if you want to ask questions throughout, we do have somebody keeping track of our questions. Serena is going to keep track of our audience questions, so you can ask questions throughout and we'll have a Q&A at the end. But thank you so much, Lisa. Malachi or Carmine?
Yeah, I can go next. So similarly to Lisa, GSWS kind of chose me. So I started at Montclair as a psychology major, and I ended up going to a job fair my first week there, and I signed up, I think, for an interview for the GSWS program as a program assistant, or sorry, no, as an outreach coordinator. I think that's what I was called at the time. Once I was in that position, I absolutely fell in love with the major. As an outreach coordinator, we kind of did a lot of outreach and a lot of advocacy in classrooms, trying to get people to join the major. So I kind of became really passionate about it. And the program assistant at the time said, you know, you just need to join the major. I really wasn't liking my psych class. And she was like, listen, stop complaining about psych. You're going to GSWS. It's done. Well, at that time, it was women's and gender studies. And then I kind of just fell into it and got really, really involved with the program, as Jess mentioned earlier, worked for it all 4 years, absolutely loved it, took every single class in the program, helped students make their schedules about what to take and, you know, professors and things like that. So I really was like the GSWS person. That's what people knew me as at Montclair for a very long time. And it's, you know, just been a part of my life ever since. So yeah, like Lisa, kind of just chose me instead.
Awesome. How about you, Malachi? What made you choose GSWS?
Oh my goodness. So I think out of the panel, I'm the one who spent like less time at Montclair. I was there for a year, but like when I was transferring in, I was looking at the different majors and I was close to finishing, and I had saw the GSWS major. And I just knew that I wanted to like really, I was learning a lot about myself and just, I really liked the program. So I was like, let me dive in. And I think it was one of the best choices that I made.
Awesome.
And for me, I guess it was kind of similar to Malachi in that I was also a transfer student. So I was at Montclair for 2 full years. I have no idea how, Malachi, you were able to finish in a year. Kudos to you. I'm not that smart or talented. But I came to Montclair not planning on being a GSWS major. Part of the reason of choosing Montclair was there actually was an LGBTQ studies minor. So I was like, oh, I'm really interested in this, and this, you know, one of the things I want to learn, but it wasn't what I majored in. As a transfer student, to be totally honest, the other department, who shall remain nameless, that I was supposed to major in, kept giving me the runaround and was not very helpful at all with me scheduling my classes. So I was like, this is a sign from somewhere that I'm not supposed to be doing this. And so I said, okay, well, I'm already taking a minor under the GSWS umbrella. Maybe I'll study this. Took my first class and was like, yeah, I'm definitely doing that. I just really loved it. And it was super exciting for me. I knew I wanted to go into the nonprofit sector in some way. And so I minored in public administration at my time at Montclair. And I think the GSWS major just really kind of grounded my understanding of, what I wanted to do in the future. And I'm really, really grateful that I was able to go through the program. So I'm actually grateful that the other department gave me the runaround in a weird way.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. I guess the next question, we can just go in order. How does your GSWS education inform your life and work today? Austin, do you want to go first? Because I think maybe it's a good segue into what you were saying.
Yeah, sure. So, when I told people what I was majoring in, as I'm sure many folks can attest to, or folks, who are thinking about this major or worried about, the number one question I would get would be like, oh, that sounds really interesting. What are you going to do with that? And my answer would always be whatever I want. I could major in, anything and do whatever I want with it as long as I know how to apply it. But I knew that I wanted to take the things I was learning in this program and try to make a change in the world for the better. And so I use the concepts and the topics that we talked about every single day in my life right now as a public affairs manager for Planned Parenthood Action Fund of New Jersey. I'm constantly talking about gender inequality, inequities, issues facing LGBTQ folks, issues specifically facing women of color, and there's so much more that I'm continuing to learn as well that I get to use my my educational background in this program as a springboard from. I've learned so much in the short time with Planned Parenthood about reproductive justice, which is something that I think was talked about in some of my courses, but I didn't really get to fully delve into. And now being able to, I've been able to speak with Loretta Ross, one of the founding mothers of the reproductive justice movement, and learn so much more. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that. So there's not a day, which as corny as that sounds, but it's truly, there's not a day that goes by that I don't use the things that I was learning in this program. It colors in every part of my life, from my personal life to my work life to my volunteer opportunities, and just constantly makes me think about, okay, how is the world the way it is today? How did it get there? How can we undo some of the damage of the negative things out there and continue to create a better world in its place? So yeah.
Incredible. Okay, who else? Lisa, Malachi, Carmine.
I guess I'll go next. So kind of similarly to Austin, it informs every single thing I do, and it has since the second I started working for the program. And similarly to Austin, every single person that I've met has said, what could you possibly do with that major? And it's so interesting because I have found that everyone is so interested in my major. So when I was applying to grad school, every single person that I interviewed with said, this is so interesting, tell me more about this. This is so needed right now, like in this program. And so if anything, I felt like it gave me so much more of a benefit over so many other people. It made my resume stand out. It made, the things that I talked about in class and the things that I talked about, at work, like once I graduated, so much different, because I was bringing in this different perspective that so many people hadn't learned about. And there were so many people, that I went to college with that were just, they really didn't like their major. They said, I'm majoring in this because I think it's going to make me money, and that's it. Whereas I loved almost every single one of my classes. And I just loved, going to school. I loved doing my work. I loved what I was reading every day. It was just, so enjoyable all the time. So now in my work with students, I always tell them, do what you love, major in something that you care about and that you're going to enjoy and that you want to do every single day, because, like Austin said, you can really major in anything. So if you're going to pay all this money, be excited to go to class every day. Be excited to do work. Be excited to, talk about your research papers to your friends. Me and Austin peer reviewed each other's final papers for the program. And I, loved every second of it. So, now when I'm doing work with students on a college campus, whether it's programming, I'm thinking, is this an equitable event? Are there options for everyone to eat? Does everyone feel welcome? Does everyone feel included? If they're doing a presentation, are there subtitles, available? Those kinds of things that I point out every day at work. Again, it shows that, I care about others. It makes me an asset. It makes my students feel more included. So I really do use it every single day. And I can promise every single one of y'all that, if you are majoring in this, you'll experience the same thing. So I highly recommend it if you couldn't tell.
I do also, just jumping off of what Carmina said about, bringing up these things, and using, the lenses that you learn in this program in your everyday work. I can definitely test that as well and say, even at a place like Planned Parenthood Action Fund of New Jersey, where I think folks go in like, oh, everyone's going to be on the same exact page and we're going to be thinking the exact same things. There's still moments in, meetings with colleagues where I bring something up and they're like, oh, I never thought about that. And of course, in my mind, I'm like, how could you have not thought of that? But I also recognize that I, finished this program, within the past few years. And so a lot of this stuff is still fresh in my mind. And so sometimes even in places where you're like, oh, people are going to be, thinking about these types of things every single day, you'll be surprised with some of the stuff that you bring up. People will be like, oh, I never even, considered that. And so I'm really grateful, for the program for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback off of that too, especially right now, well, thank goodness November 3rd happened, but right before then, in the political climate, not that I want to get political at all, but during that time, there was a lot of discussions from people that are really close to me, from, strangers on the street. Everyone was getting political. Everyone was talking about these issues. And, being a GSWS student and even just like being under the humanities umbrella, you learn so much in these classes that you can educate people on the street that don't take the time to go out and research and go out, and especially when, nowadays when people are considering like videos on Facebook research, you get to have these informed discussions, and you get to educate people and have people say, hey, I really actually never considered that, or that actually is a great point, and oh my God, I've never heard of this. And that was really important to me, I think, during this time, just because I felt like, I'm not that you feel like you're one step ahead, but you actually feel like, hey, I'm changing someone's life, and I'm informing a public to make a decision based on the common good. And that's really important, in terms of politics and but in my work also, I work a lot with social media. I have a brand that's launching online, and everything is our content. All of our marketing is content based, and our content has to be correct. It has to be inclusive, and not just because of my background, but because I want the new companies, emerging companies, to also jump on this bandwagon. And I can really now, which I couldn't do before, now I can identify other competitors and what they're doing in their marketing that's not as inclusive. And that's really important, because at the end of the day, people buy based on their interests, and it's not just about people buying, but we want to make sure that we put products on the market that make people feel like they're included, especially products such, important products like feminine products or vaginal products, really. But so I use it every day also in my work and my marketing and my content creation. And it's great now that I can identify what's not inclusive and what is. So that's important to me.
Oh my goodness, how do I follow up? Everyone said everything, but I definitely think being in higher education, student affairs, and working with the different students I work with, it's just it has informed my practice. And I just think coming in as a new professional and being young, I think I've been able to come in and kind of shake the table, as I feel like I have different competencies that so many people don't. And just thinking how Austin mentioned, there's areas that people have blind sides. And I'm just well, we need to think about it this way. What about this? What about that? And I just think about the major and all of the different classes I got to take in my short year, and all the people I got to meet, and just how it really broadened my scope and helped me a little bit unpack my biases, but also just allowed me a way to better myself and spread that with my students. And I just feel like it makes me a better advisor of my cultural centers and just in supporting, as I have that background.
That's incredible. It's so awesome to hear how GSWS has really breathed life into the work you've done. And I agree, it's so relevant. It has always been, but especially now when, society is becoming a little bit more progressive in some ways. But okay, let's see. As a GS GSWS alum, what are your hopes for our future? Whoever wants to go first, how about you, Malachi?
I hope that more people study GSW and just like, really get involved with the major, just because we need those perspectives. We need those people out there being informed. And it's just, I don't know, like working in a college, it's just like the students that are coming up, I feel like they're a lot more woke than I was. And I'm just like, whoa, like, okay. So I just think that more people need to study it and really get involved and immerse themselves in it. I think it's done wonders for myself and my professional growth. So I would love for more people to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like Gen Z is really progressive and they're really passionate about being progressive. And it's so like amazing because I think, well, I'm 24, so I'm more, what's the millennial? I'm more millennial, but like I'm in between. And I literally can see from the year younger than me that people are just so passionate about talking about these things, so passionate about bringing awareness. And like, it brings me hope to future generations because there were a lot of things that came up recently that were threatening our progression, really. And now we're able to recognize it, nip it in the butt and say, no, we're going to progress as a society. This is why we're here. And this is why, majors like GSWS exists, and I think more and more people are going to be signing up to programs like these and educating themselves formally on these issues because, the more, I don't know about you, but the more I learn, the more addicted I get to learning about societies and learning how to progress and learning about LGBTQ studies and women's studies and just turning into the world that I envision my kids to live in. That's what, and I think that this is a great step. And I think a lot of people now are going to be joining majors like this and we won't get questions like, what do you do with that? It's going to be over.
Yeah, to piggyback right off of that, I think my biggest hope, and it has been even since I graduated, is that, programs like this become so much more normalized, that it's not this weird thing that you're majoring in gender studies and that's so strange and no one's ever heard about it. Like, my hope is that it's just as popular as, psychology and sociology and all of those things, because it is so relevant and it's so important. And I've been saying, like, I would love for it to be a requirement, like, every single school in the country. Like, you have to take an intro to gender studies class. You have to understand these things and just learn about people who are different from you. And then, for the world, similarly, I think it's time for us to stop moving backwards and maybe move forwards. And I do think that, having this younger generation, I think Gen Z is incredibly resilient. I love absolutely everything about Gen Z. I love working with Gen Z every single day. I think y'all are fantastic. My sister is 18. She actually is a freshman at Montclair State University. And she is just, a queen. She's a queen. She really is. And, I wasn't even, half that much of an activist at her age. And so just to see how much she cares about others and how much her friends do and the people she surrounds herself with, it gives me so much hope. But, we need people to be majoring. We need people to be, advocating for these types of programs on college campuses so badly. And I hope that, things like this and the work that y'all are doing just keep happening over and over again. And yeah. I ramble, I'm sorry.
No, I actually want to hop in very quickly because I do have a quick Carmine story in 1 second. But first, we have one of our professors is with us and has to run. So I just wanted to give her a second because she wanted to just quickly introduce herself and say something about the work that she does in justice studies. So Venice Michelson, I know you're out there. I see you floating. You want to just say hi, a quick hi?
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say I'm Professor Michelson, and I teach a number of classes that are in cross-listed with justice studies and gender, sexuality, and women's studies. Victimology, for example, my seminar on gender and crime and human trafficking. And, the intersections of justice studies and the criminal justice system and gender and sexuality are myriad. And I'm excited. All of these beautiful voices that I'm hearing tonight, people that have I'd love to have any and all of you in my classes and be able to talk about the ways in which our criminal justice system is really disservicing all the different places where gender is, and then where technology and human trafficking intersects with that. So I hope if anybody has any questions, then let's talk about it. But I hope that I can have some of you in my classes to enrich that. All these beautiful voices. So
Yeah.
thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Venice, so much for popping in. We have a number of faculty here, and so certainly later on when we wrap up, if anybody would like to say a quick shout out to some of the good classes that we have coming up, I'm sure there'll be a minute for that. And I'm going to turn it back over to Nina in 1 second, but first I'm going to tell a quick Carmine story, because when you're talking about your sister and how, you know, she's so much more, you know, of an activist than the other. I had this moment. Carmine's working in the GSWS office, and I walk in. I don't know if you're going to remember this story. I walk in, and you had just gotten a new tattoo that day. Do you remember? So Carmine's gotten a new tattoo that day, and I walk in, and she's like, Jess, you know, you like my new tattoo, and it's a little hammer, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool, Carmine. Like, what's the hammer for? And she's like, damn it, Jess. Like, she's like, smashing the patriarchy, like. You know, and I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, you know, like obviously. So anyway, so I mean, but does she have is she smashing the patriarchy in tattoo form yet? Maybe not quite yet. So, you know, she'll get there.
She got her first tattoo, you know, this year.
All right.
We'll see.
So we'll see.
I also
such a like Jess out of it minute and moment, because you're like, Jess, you know,
should have known.
Yeah.
People ask about it all the time, and I wouldn't have gotten this if it weren't for GSWS. So
there you go. So there's another great reason to choose the major. So I'll turn it back to Nina, but I just had to tell that story. I was just thinking about laughing. Anyway, go ahead.
That's awesome. I love that. Austin, how about you? What as a GSWS alum, what are your hopes for our future?
So I think I definitely share a lot of the same hopes that Lisa, Carmine, and Malachi have stated. So instead of going, you know, just saying the exact same things, some other things I really want to just highlight. One, when we're thinking about wokeness, right? And we talk a lot about Gen Z and how much more progressive in a lot of ways they are. Something I do hope for the future is that people stop being woke for clout, and that people start bringing that up, you know, bringing these things up to truly make a difference. It's not about telling somebody why, you know, they're awful, although, you know, also prioritize. Sometimes there's people who are like, I can't even talk to you because it's not going to go anywhere. But it shouldn't be about, you know, saying, well, you're awful and I'm so much better than you, and here's why, because all of these things that I care about. It should be about, you know, trying to bring those folks in and getting them to realize, you know, as stupid as it might sound, but wow, there are people who have other experiences besides myself, and those people have feelings. I had no idea. Mind blowing. Because unfortunately, and as we've seen, you know, with past elections and you know, who folks have supported, there seems to be people in the world who don't realize that other people have feelings. They're like, oh wait, I should care about this person and their like rights and experiences. That's wild. And so I think it's our, you know, not necessarily our responsibility to be educators, but to be able to, as much as we can, call folks in and, you know, use the things that we've learned to really not just make a difference in the world at large, but also, you know, part of that is by changing hearts and minds and trying to change those, you know, folks individually. So that's one thing that I do hope. I'm very grateful. I have a younger sister who is also part of Gen Z. She just turned 16. And there's certainly a lot of hope that I get every time I talk with her and hear about, you know, oh, you know, I was the only kid who walked out pre-COVID. I was the only kid who walked out of school, you know, to protest gun violence, or I was the only person who, you know, did this at my school to raise awareness about, you know, the needs of, you know, my LGBTQ peers. And it definitely gives me a lot of hope. And I also know that the downside of the social media generation is, you know, the desire for performative, you know, allyship. And so understanding that line of, okay, how can I educate people, flex on them a little bit, but not make that the whole point of why I care about these things. So that's what I hope for in the future when it comes to the program specifically. Other things I hope for include the destruction of capitalism as an economic system, but that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself.
Awesome, yeah.
You had to throw it in there.
Hey.
Can I piggyback off Austin real quick, Nina? Thanks.
Yeah.
I will say too, something I think that is so important about this major is not only does it teach you the things, but it teaches you how to teach others the things. So like Austin was saying, like, it's not just that you're learning about all this stuff, you learn how to have a dialogue. And like, if you're in the program throughout your whole entire time at Montclair, I was fortunately in it for 4 years, so I got 4 years of experience. It's transformative. It really is. Like, I feel like, when I first entered the program, anyone who disagreed with me, I was like, never want to talk to you, sorry, or just call them out. And, then it turned to, going to grad school, being the only person of color in my entire graduate program, and having people say really problematic things and having to have those really tough conversations to get them to learn, So I had one of my classmates say, I don't really agree that, like, racism is, still happening and it's worse for people of color and like all this stuff. Could you talk to me about that? And like, old me would have walked out of that conversation. But, we talked till 3 a.m. that night. And, and now he has completely transformed into a different person. So it's really about learning how to have those dialogues as well.
Agreed. I was just going to say, like, my family group chat, which has 33 people with all of my cousins, who would have thought a bunch of like Dominicans would be like have really problematic thinking. But exactly. So, and we always kind of go back and forth, and it's hard to have a discussion with them, if you want me to be honest, but I actually had a small victory today. And it's my cousin said, Lisa, you make some great points. They actually could change someone's mind one day. Not mine though. But whatever. It's fine. It just, you can come with data, you can come with facts, you can bring up some things you learned in class, and it becomes really real. And you can recommend some things, and if people that had really, really different opinions than you, go off and read and come back to you, it's really rewarding, because it's like, yeah, I actually think I'm making some sort of impact in your life, at least broadening your little bit. And it is really important. I had someone tell me, well, you think just because you have this degree, that, because that was a big problem also during the elections, that our generation, because we went to college, now we think we're better than everyone. I don't know, it was kind of a rhetoric, and I'm like, no, actually, I'm just, we're just trying to bring up facts, like, and Gen Z and millennials, like, we're trying to just at least make you aware, change your heart a little bit, melt the ice a little around it. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening now. So I'm really grateful for this education.
Can I add one thing too? I just think too, like, especially thinking, like, as a person of color, sometimes it does get like exhausting having those type of conversations, but like just through the major and like some of the texts that we read in our classes and stuff, and I think back to some of it too, I'm just like, I think you should take a peel over X, Y, and Z. And like, I sometimes share out stuff because I'm kind of a hoarder and I keep everything. So I still have stuff, but just sharing out some of the things that I've read and like went through. So I think that also ties into some of the areas up here.
Malachi, that's a great point. I can definitely relate to the sentiment of things getting exhausting to explain over and over again. So it's awesome that you have those texts to share, and I definitely can relate to that. Okay, let's open it up for. I want to thank y'all for all your awesome answers to these questions, and I think we are going to open it up for some Q&A from the audience. If anybody has any questions, you could just pop them in the chat. I want to make sure I didn't miss any throughout this time, but I don't think I did. So feel free to just write any in the chat, or you could unmute yourself if you want. But any questions you have for the panel, that'd be awesome. Give you all a minute or so. Well, actually, I have a question. I have a question that I could ask. What's a class that you've taken that you think has really kind of had the most impact on you in the GSWS program?
So I can start because I know my answer 100% was GLQS 201, Queer Identities. I'll be very honest and say a lot of the folks we went to that class with were like, I don't like this class. I don't know what's going on. Carmine, you were in that class with me, right? I don't remember how you felt about the course, but I just remember people came in and were like, I don't know how I feel about this. This is a little weird. Look, by the end of that class, I was like, this is honestly the best class I've ever taken. In even today, I've gone through, I did a LGBTQ health policy and practice program at George Washington. And now I'm in a master's of public health program. Even to this day, my favorite class I've ever taken was still Queer Identities. That was the course that changed. I was like, oh, I already think I already know how to look at the world, and I already know all these things and whatever. And that class flipped everything upside down, and I was like, what? And I loved it. And it's running this winter, as Dr. Esteno just said. So you should take it, people. Is Anuj teaching it again? Unfortunately. Okay. Well, in any case, still take it. But it was an amazing course.
Does anybody else want to answer that question? Carmine.
Where to begin? I mean, I loved so many of them, but my favorite was either feminist theory or just the intro class. I think the intro class was really, again, transformative for me. It like opened me up to, the possibility of what like this type of education could look like. And so I remember that class just really being a turning point in, college, and being like, wow, like I'm going to love school because this is like, that was my jam. Like I found it. So definitely those two, but can also have to attest that to Dr. Shannon Harry Walsh, who taught. I took her for literally every single class I could. She was an incredible professor. And yeah, she was just great. She, something else I will say about the program that I've experienced a lot is just how much the professors and faculty are really willing to let you express yourself, and do like what you want in class in the way that you want to express it. So, being able to do a presentation completely like in whichever direction you want. I think I was the first person to show pornography in class at Montclair State University, and it was because I was analyzing it, and it was a great class session, and I talked about it for an hour, and it was fantastic. And yeah, it's just things like you wouldn't be able to do in other majors. I don't know. I'm ranting now. I will stop.
Yeah, I would agree to that too. And one of my favorite classes was also Queer Identities, and one of our final projects, my final project was on BDSM. And I feel like there's no other major you can have a full-on project on BDSM. So, and a really in-depth project too. But yeah, I agree. Like you're so free to express yourself. You're free to talk however you'd like to talk, and a lot of, what I found really refreshing in all of my classes were a lot of the students were able to finally find a space where they can literally be themselves. And a lot of people would open up to so many things, so many life experiences in class. And a lot of our classes are emotional. It becomes super emotional and super eye-opening. I've walked out of class with tears in my eyes so many times. And I've gone to sleep. There have been so many times that it's like after a class, I'm like in bed and I'm just like still thinking about what, so-and-so mentioned in class. And I think that's really important because it was so cool to know that I'm in a major that I'm actually passionate about, that actually touches my soul, and I can be expressive and everyone around me can be expressive. And that's really important too. And no matter, and especially if we want to make the world more progressive, we need to create more spaces like classes that are like our classes in GSWS. So I think, that's really important. Also, really quickly, on another favorite class that I took was Images of Muslim Women in the Media. And I think that's is it a GSWS class or an English course? Either way, I took it in the program with Professor Fawzia, which Fawzia is the best. She's really tough, but she's the best. And I think once you take a class with her, you're gonna love it. So I definitely say take a class with her, and take that class in particular. It's a great class. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I can definitely echo that. Queer Identities was one of my favorite classes I've ever taken out the school. So how about you, Malachi? You have a favorite class?
I'm gonna go against the grain a little bit. I really think about like intro to LGBT studies, because I just think about like myself and me like dealing with my queerness and like, what does this mean? So it's like, I felt like I was somewhere, learning more about like terminology and figuring out like who I am and like where I was going and who I was becoming, and fully embracing myself. So I think that was like a very like pivotal time in taking that course. Just everything was perfect about it. So I really enjoyed that class.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have some questions in the chat. We'll go Tiviana, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They said, were you a little scared and unsure about starting this major? And when you joined, was there any doubt in your mind that you wouldn't love it? We could have maybe like one or two people answer that one.
I would like to go.
Yeah.
I definitely just think like coming in as a transfer student, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on track to graduate, but I'm at this new school. It was definitely scary figuring out a major, but going into this major, it felt like home. Like all of the classes I've taken, all the professors, all of the courses that I got to take, it just made my transition into Montclair so much easier. And I think there should be no hesitation. Like it's such a great place to be, and I don't think I would change it for anything. It was the best choice I could make during my time at Montclair.
Awesome. Yeah. Anybody else have an answer to that question too?
I'd like to answer that question. I mean, there weren't any doubts. It's funny, the outside influence, those questions that you get, what are you going to do with it, kind of did get to me at first. And I'm like, wait, what can I do with this? And now, and also my business minor is completely different. It's like polar opposites. And so a lot of people in my business classes were making it seem like, well, you're in here to make money, and what are you going to do, and but like I said before, I realized like, no, I'm in a class and I'm living my life the way the hell I want to. and not, and now I feel like I was learning something that touched my soul, that really I was passionate about, that and with people that are also just as passionate, and learning about things that I would never learn about really in the outside world. Like, where would I Google some of the things we've discussed in class? Like, it just wouldn't really occur to me. And I just think that, at first, quite honestly, yeah. And then afterwards, I'm like, absolutely not. Now I'm going to live my life in that way. I'm going to follow things that touch my soul for the rest of my life, because it's the best decision I can make. And I'm sure a lot of you agree. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really inspiring.
Thanks.
Okay. Sarah asked, do you think you need to go to grad school in order to get a job with the GSWS degree? Anybody have anything to?
So I will answer that unequivocally, no, you do not. But I also want to remind folks that it's hard to get a job even with a grad degree in 2020. And so like I was able to, I did mention that I'm, enrolled in a master's program, but I got my first job out of college doing something I really, really loved. I was working at an HIV service organization using a lot of the things I learned in this program in my everyday job. And the only degree I had besides my associates was this bachelor's. So I would say, no, you do not need a graduate degree, but do think about the job landscape and how you can make connections and start thinking about that early. I was really grateful to be introduced to my first boss post-graduation through someone I interned under during my time in the GSWS program. So I interned at an LGBTQ center in Jersey City, and the then director there knew someone who was hiring, so said, hey, you were amazing when you were with us. We're not hiring, but this person is, put an application in and put me down as a reference. And so as Dr. Rustano has said, the folks at GSWS can help you with internships, and that's finding that internship and getting that experience, even outside of the academic realm is, I think, really what helped me land my first job and, has gotten me to where I am today. So in short, no, you do not need a graduate degree, but just the reality of job hunting post-graduation in the 2020s is that it's not going to be easy for anybody. And so start thinking now about how you can sell yourself and the skills that you learn in this program that no one else has learned unless they've taken a program like this, and think about those connections where you can make them and start making them now.
Yeah, some really good advice that I'm jotting down as I start to think about, outside of college. Let's see. I don't think there are any other questions. Does anybody have any last minute questions before we wrap up and hear from maybe some professors that have been teaching? Okay. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think if we want to bring the PowerPoint back up, well, do we want to hear from the professors first, or do we want to do announcements?
Really quick open invitation to any of our faculty if you want to say a quick word about a course that you're offering or just something in general, kind of to connect to students, and then we will get that slide up. We'll get the next slide up because we have a couple quick announcements and want to say goodbye, and I also want to just thank our amazing GSWS team too and introduce you. But yeah, go ahead, Allison. Did you want to unmute?
Hang on. Yes, am I unmuted? Oh, you can't see me. Hang on, sorry. Oops. Okay, so you've just noticed how untechy I am. I just wanted to say hi. I think this has been really great. I teach in the program. I teach the Inventing Feminisms. But yeah, it's really exciting to hear how, those of you who are gone already have been really successful. And also just to hear the enthusiasm from everybody. It's really great. I think we're all on a bit of a high since November 3rd, at least I hope everybody is. And I have faith in the next generation. I really think you guys you're active, which is really what we need. So anyway, that's all. I'm not gonna talk lots here.
Thanks, Allison. Maria, did you want to say a quick word?
Sure, yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Maria Monteperdo, and I'm new to teaching in the program, actually. I'm teaching my second intro course to GSWS. And first of all, I mean, it's a great course to teach. And it was really great to hear from the graduates in the program because it sort of reinforces for me things I'm doing and talking about and some of the experiences the students seem to be having, and kind of put me on course of feeling like, okay, this is working, it's just very exciting to hear you all talk about the kind of changes that turn things around for you in different ways depending on your lives and et cetera, and also bringing it into your everyday and into your work lives and the way it's informing your thinking about interacting with others who may think differently or don't have the knowledge. And I agree that it should be required. At the very least, the intro course feels like it should be required, because I know I get students who didn't really necessarily want to be there. It's like, it's a gen ed, it fulfills their time slot, but they seem to be responding so positively in most respects. So it's pretty exciting. I'm glad to hear from you all.
I agree, it should be a required major. Thank you, Maria. Did anybody else have any quick comment from our faculty? And then we're going to get up our closing slide. Go ahead, Carrie. What do you want to say?
I just wanted to echo some of what Allison and Maria said about hearing from alums, and also especially echo some of Austin's statements about thinking about like the job hunt and everything. That ultimately your major can influence what you do, but it doesn't dictate it. I teach in the writing studies program. My background is in theater. So it's not a direct correlation, and really doing something that you're excited about is one of the most beneficial things, I think. I'm teaching Writing Women Safe in the spring. If anyone wants to know more about it, let me know. And I noticed some of my Writing 105 students joined. So hey, y'all, thank you for coming.
So happy to have y'all. And Austin said, Inventing Feminisms was also a really great course, a course on the history of feminism that also teaches you how that history was written and which stories have been left out in the process.
I also want to say I'm super jealous hearing about some of the courses that are being offered soon, because they weren't offered during my 2 years, or they were offered when I couldn't take them. So I'm just like, oh, I wanted to take that class and I couldn't. So now y'all get the chance to take some of them. Like, I never got to take Writing Women Safe, and I'm like, oh, you should take that. It sounded like such an awesome class.
Very powerful course to teach, powerful course to be part of. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Carrie. So let's see if we can get thank you to everybody. I'm kind of overflowing right now, but if we could just get up our closing slide, I want to just do a couple quick things. So I want to, we'll get to say kind of hi and bye to our GSWS team in just a minute on the next slide. So you're kind of meeting everybody at the end, but I want to turn it over very quickly to Jonah and Nina if you two wanted to say anything. They are spearheading a GSWS zine project. What do you think? Any words?
Yeah, Jonah and I, this is Jonah. Jonah does a lot of our awesome flyers and graphics, and just is awesome. So, but Jonah and I are working on this GSWS zine, and we're thrilled to announce that the GSWS program is in the process of making a collaborative zine. So please follow us on Instagram at GSWS_MSU to stay tuned for submission details. So we're just kind of plugging that. Just stay tuned. There's a lot in the works, and we're very excited. Is there anything you want to say?
You said it all.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we're really excited. It's going to be awesome. We're excited to make a zine that really showcases GSWS talent and, allows a lot of voices to be heard. So we're very excited. And then Jonah also made this awesome graphic or illustrations on the next slide introducing the GSWS team. If you want to go to the next slide, Aiden.
Can you believe Jonah? This is Jonah. It's really beautiful. This is really beautiful. So Tamisha, Aiden, Serena, Jonah, Nina is the team, and it has been already a privilege and an honor and a pleasure to work together. And some of us are newly working together this semester, and it's just been great, and the energy is amazing, and you know, so the Instagram is better and better, our look, the design. So I want to just thank everybody. It's really, see, Jonah, you're getting some love, a lot of love in the comments right now. I like me. I think I look really cute here. I feel very young, very youthful. I was
just about to say that, Jess. We look 20 years younger.
It's like me and you are exactly, you wouldn't, yeah. So thank you, Jonah. Thank you. So without further, I think we have one more slide. I want to thank, Aiden's been operating the slide. I want to just, yeah. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. We want you to join us. Email me, we will get you on board. Major, pick up one of the minors. I'm happy to work with you. I'm happy to be creative and to think together about what your goals are and how we can create a program that really fits. So pop me an email, we will get you started. Be so happy to have you. And that's it for tonight. So thank you for being here. Feel free to hang out. If you want to hang out a minute with questions, I'm happy to hang around. Otherwise, I hope to see you soon and in the classroom. Great job, GSWS team. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us and for running the show.